Hello and welcome to my Darkest Dungeon 2 Hellion class guide. I'm your host, Methfu. If this guide managed to help you out even a tiny little bit, please smash that like button. It'd be greatly appreciated. So in this guide, I'm going over all the skills, the best ones to use, and the best teams for the Barbarian herself, the Hellion. So let's have a look at the pros and the cons for the Hellion. So number 1, hits hard. Number 2 has Wolverine-like regeneration healing abilities. Number 3 is stress-free life. Number 4 can tank for her allies. Number 5, better than Diablo 3 female barbarian any day of the week. Moving on to the cons. So number 1, she prefers to be driving or calls shotgun every time. Number 2, she skipped a lot of cardio days, so her stamina is very bad. Number 3, she literally starts the game as a kitten, but as you unlock her abilities, she becomes a tiger. Okay, now for my favorite part of the guide, the abilities. So, starting with Wicked Hack. So you need to be in the first 2 ranks to be able to hit the first 2 ranks of the enemy team. Deals 4 to 7 damage, has a 5% crit. So the thing I don't like about Wicked Hack is that it's literally just kind of like a filler ability until you unlock the better skills. There's a lot stronger skills later on that give you the winded effect that hit really goddamn hard, or they apply a bleed effect. So it's better to take those over Wicked Hack any day of the week. So next up, we've got Iron Swan. So you need to be in the first rank to hit the last rank of the enemy team. Deals 4 to 7 damage, has a 5% crit chance. So Iron Swan, I see this ability more as a utility ability rather than a damage ability. So most time you want to be using your powerful winded damage abilities over Iron Swan, but when the need arises and your team is lacking backline damage, this thing, or this ability, can be a great filler. Barbaric Yelp. So you have to be the first and second rank to be able to hit the first 2 ranks of the enemy team. Has a cooldown of 1, ignores stealth. It gives the target a debuff of 50% less damage. It removes their stealth as well, and it gives you a self-inflicted debuff or winded every time you use it. Right, so this ability looks fairly good on paper, but it's actually one of the weakest winded abilities you can use. Most of the time, it's pretty better to do anything else other than use this. Even when it's upgraded, it isn't that great, just because you need a combo point to even be able to stun the target. So I'm going to give this one a big thumbs down, not to use it at all, because it's kind of redundant. If it bleeds, you need to be in the second and third rank to be able to hit the second and third rank of the enemy team. Deals 2 to 4 damage, has a 5% crit chance, and applies 2 bleed to the target that you hit it with. So I quite like If It Bleeds for damage over time team comps. Literally, it hits the second and third rank. Most of the time, you can't hit the third rank as a Hellion at all. And it also, when you're winded, it doesn't reduce its damage too much, because the bleed effect is always going to do its full damage, even if you are winded and having the 33% damage debuff, or however many tokens you have acquired of that. The only problem of If It Bleeds is that you need to be in the second rank to be able to use it, which can be quite hard to do unless you have someone that can dance with you. Toe to toe, you need to be the first 3 ranks to be able to hit the first and second rank of the enemy team. Deals 2 to 4 damage, has a 5% crit rate, moves you 4x1, immobilizes you, and gives you a self-taunt buff. Toe to toe is another ability I never leave the tavern without. This literally makes it so the Hellion is actually a tank. It forces the enemies to target you. It makes it so you can't be moved. Also allows you to get back in position if you've been knocked out of position. And it does a tiny bit of damage, which you can use to remove dodge tokens and remove defense tokens from the enemies. Adrenaline Rush can be used in any rank. Requires your self HP to be at 33% or less. Has a cooldown of 3, and you can use it twice per combat. It gives you a self heal of 20%. It removes bleeds. It removes your winded debuff, and you gain on each attack heal 20%. Right, so Adrenaline Rush is one of the abilities that makes the Hellion Wolverine. This gives you so much healing. You get 20% healing, and every attack you do, you heal up as well. It gives you tons of life still. It's just great sustainability and great to have if you're trying to tank as a Hellion in Darkest Dungeon. Next up, we've got Bleed Out. You need to be in the first rank to be able to hit the enemy first rank. Deals 4 to 8 damage, has a 5% crit chance. It applies 4 bleed to the target you hit, and it gives you a self-inflicted winded debuff every time you use it. So Bleed Out is one of those abilities that literally can be really good or really bad, depending on if you have a target to actually apply a bleed to, and depending if that target actually warrants applying that bleed to in the first place. Sometimes a lot of other things you can be doing as a Hellion rather than applying a Bleed Out, but if you're using a damage over time composition, then Bleed Out is actually quite a go-to ability to use. Next up is Bloodlust. Has to be the first 3 ranks. It removes the winded debuff. You gain attacks deal 20% damage when target is bleeding. Bloodlust. I don't feel it's ever worth wasting a turn on Bloodlust. 20% damage when target is bleeding That's a lot of setup time. You're literally skipping your turn to do 20% more damage to a target, when you probably could have killed the target or done that much damage with your attack in the first place. I feel like this ability is pretty redundant until they give it a buff. Breakthrough has been the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th rank to be able to hit the first 3 ranks of the enemy team. Deals 1 to 2 damage, has a cooldown of 1. It moves you 4 by 1 every time you use it as well, and also inflicts the winded debuff to you when you use it. Breakthrough is pretty much just used for utility. It's just used to take off the shield tokens and the dodge tokens of the enemies. If you have no other AoE in your team, it's fair to take it, but most of the time you're going to have people in your team that's going to do the job better than you can with the 1 to 2 damage that it does, which is very mediocre. Another Wolverine-like regeneration ability, Raucous Revelry. So you can be in any rank to use this, has a cooldown of 1. It gives you a self-heal of 20% if your HP is at 33% or less. It gives you a stress heal of -2 if your stress is 5+. It also gives you the winded debuff. It also removes Horrify. And it gives your allies a -1 stress if your allies are stressed at 5+. This is one ability I never leave the tavern without. I always have this equipped on my Hellion no matter what. The stress healing is just amazing for herself, for her allies. Removing Horrify is pretty good as well, because not many abilities do this. And on top of that, it also heals you for 20%, which is great to keep her alive and keep her tanking on the front line. So, Howling End. Need to be in the 1st and 2nd rank to be able to hit the 1st and 2nd rank. Deals 8 to 14 damage, has a 10% crit chance, and it has a cooldown of 1. It ignores any enemy armor, and also applies the winded debuff every time you use it to yourself. So I consider Howling End to be one of the Hellion's bread and butter abilities. I always have this equipped no matter what, unless I'm running a damage over time team composition, in which case I'll be taking bleed out. But Howling End hits so goddamn hard and has a really high crit rate, it makes no sense not to take it. So this is the best build for the Hellion, starting off with Howling End. So this thing just hits so goddamn hard. It has a massive damage, it has good crit, it only has a 1 turn cooldown, so you can use it nearly every other turn. Next up, we got Toe to Toe. So this allows us to tank for our teammates, keeps the pressure on us. We can heal up to pretty much full anytime we want. Also, once it's upgraded, it removes the winded debuff that we receive when we use winded abilities, allowing our Howling End to hit for its full damage. Our 3rd ability is Iron Swan. This allows us to attack the backline if there's some nasty backliners, such as the drummer or any other backliner that's going to cause us some grief to our team. Raucous Revelry is my 4th choice. This keeps the stress down. This heals us up as well. Keeps the stress of our teammates. It also removes Horrify if it's on us. It's just a very solid ability. Last but not least, we have Adrenaline Rush. So this is insane. Can be used in any rank. Heals us for 20%. And every time we make an attack, we heal for another 20%. Great ability, great one to have. Right, so moving on to the Mastery Trainer. So the first thing I always upgrade on the Hellion with my first Mastery point is Toe to Toe. So it increases its damage from 2 to 4 to 3 to 5. It still has 5% crit rate. It gives you 1 more taunt token for a total of 3, but the main reason I upgrade this first every time is because it removes the winded debuff that you receive every time you use Howling End. So normally my rotation is actually swapping between Howling End, Toe to Toe, Howling End, Toe to Toe, and occasionally healing up in between that. The next ability upgrade after that is Howling End, which is no surprise. This thing hits like a truck. So it increases its damage to 10 to 18 from 8 to 14. It increases its crit rate to 15% from 10%. And ignores shield still. And it also ignores any sort of shield ally that the enemy uses. All in all, this skill hits so goddamn hard that literally as soon as you've upgraded Toe to Toe, upgrade this one second and you'll be slicing your enemies to pieces. The 3rd ability I normally upgrade after Howling End and Toe to Toe have been both upgraded is Iron Swan. So this increases damage to 6 to 8 from 4 to 7, and it also increases its crit rate to 10% from 5%. So this allows you to kill the backline a lot more efficiently, a lot faster, and allow you to keep Howling Ending the front line as much as possible. Okay, moving on to the best teams for the Hellion. So to be honest with you, the Hellion can literally slot into any team she wants. She is actually pretty strong. She has great synergy with everyone, and she has great utility as well. She brings a lot to any team that she is in. But the main 3 teams I would pick for her would be Hellion, then the Highwayman. The Highwayman couples pretty well with her. She hits her Howling Ends pretty hard. Then the Highwayman also hits his Wicked Slices. He has a Riposte as well as Joyous Advance. and he can hit point blank shots, allowing you to down target extremely quickly, thus reducing any sort of damage your team will be taking over time. Our first slot I would normally put in would be the Jester. The Jester is really strong, high utility character, can remove stress, can apply blinds, can apply a very strong AoE, a bleed effect, and it does pretty good damage as well on top of that. He is just an all-around great character also. The fourth character I normally pick to go in there with the Plague Doctor. The Plague Doctor is just jam-packed full of utility between all the blinds it brings, between the healing, between also the corpse clears as well, Magnesium Rain. It literally is such a great character to pair with the Hellion. The Hellion sometimes has troubles hitting the pack lines, so with Magnesium Rain you can clear the corpses and allow your Hellion to hit the first and second rank the whole battle. The next team I would normally play is actually swapping out the Plague Doctor for the Oculus. The Oculus has Daemon's Pull, allowing you to pull stuff into your Hellion, allowing the Hellion to hit more Howling Ends whenever she wants during the battle, which is pretty strong. And the last team I'd like to play also is actually swapping out the Highwayman for the Runaway, swapping in the Grave Robber for the Jester, and swapping back in the Plague Doctor for the Sisters of Battle. This is a very high damage over time setup, so depending on your play style and depending on how much you want to apply those dots, you can swap out Howling End for Bleed Out if you want to have more dot damage, or keep Howling End in if you need more burst damage. The thing about this whole setup as well, because it is so damage over time orientated, that it scales really nicely with Cause of Death, allowing you to hit really big numbers depending on how many stacks of Bleed, Blight and Burn you have in your target. Okay, so the general way to play the Hellion is to Howling End right at the start of the battle, just do max amount of damage as we can. After that, I normally look to go toe to toe so I can put all the pressure on myself using a taunt and remove the winded debuff also. If they have a strong backline, I will hold off on the Howling End and start Iron Swelling with my other people that can target the backline first. But if I start to drop low on HP, I'll use Raucous Revelry to heal up to full, and also if I gain any stress, I will use that as well to remove any Horrify or any other stress off my teammates. If I drop really low, I'll use Adrenaline to heal up by 20% and then gain Lifesteal on all my attacks. And then after that, depending on how much damage I've taken, I'll be using Howling End and then toe to toe and literally alternating between them. If I drop low, I'll just keep healing up and then keep switching back to Howling End and toe to toe rotation. So the first thing I see when I look at the Hellion is literally a feral barbarian with massive regeneration abilities that can't die. It literally just heals up. It's like something out of a Wolverine film. They're literally shooting him with stuff, stabbing him, and she's just healing for it all with her massive regeneration abilities. So as long as you are able to manage your winded debuff and make sure you're not using your Howling Ends too much with the winded debuff on you to reduce your damage, you will be hitting like a truck the whole time and ending fights really quickly. Right, that about wraps up my class guide for the Hellion. So if there's any other guides you want me to do, let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.